Hello, so today I'm going to talk about a really important concept, something that will help you with achieving almost anything in life. Almost the lazy person's guide to achievement. But for me, lazy is just another word for efficiency, which funny enough is something I read once in a fortune cookie, but I liked it so I held on to that. Many teachers in this field call it the pathway of least resistance or the least action pathway. And I want to emphasize the importance of this concept because once you get this down, you're flying towards success. So let's look at the phrase itself. Pathway, which is essentially a route or direction, and least resistance or least action, which means the least amount of work to do. This is the law of the natural world around us. And to give an example, if you have a drop of water on a vertical surface such as a wall, it's always going to drip downwards in a straight motion. Water is not going to drip down the wall sideways unless something's in its way. And if something's in its way, then the water will take a detour around that obstruction just to get back to its gravitational pull downwards, which obviously requires more work. And using this as an analogy, we can compare this with many of the things we do in life. Wherever there's a struggle, annoyance, or irritation of doing something, then you're more than likely experiencing some sort of resistance. And yes, that resistance will be in your face, it will be pissing you off, and maybe even blinding. But it's simply something just to recognize and then to ignore. Just remember to focus on where you want to go, rather than what's pissing you off, and you will find success in whatever you do. I'll give you a little example I had recently. So I travel on push bike to and from work along this nice, long, beautiful pathway called the Great Central Way. I found day after day, no matter how good of a mood I was in, I'd always become increasingly pissed off and frustrated with what I call phone zombies. People walking around on their mobile phones, or with their headphones on, not paying a bit of attention to what's going on around them. You ding the bell once, twice, 6 or even 10 times, and they wouldn't hear you because they're just too distracted with their mobile phone. People be even walking towards me, look up from their phone, and a moment later look back down, not even realizing that someone on the bike was moving towards them, completely unaware of any hazard. About as much awareness of a zombie, hence my name for them. So as time went on, I got more and more annoyed. I actually felt like ramming into him just to make a point, which obviously is not the best way to deal with this. Then after one day, I had a nice conversation with my friend Duncan, and I decided that I needed to approach this situation differently. I needed to reflect on what was going on and apply the tools and concepts that would help me. And for me, that was to simply aim for the gaps, not the twats. Meaning, focus on the space between the phone zombies and not the zombies themselves. They were still there, but I didn't have to look. I learned to ignore them as I went past, and by doing this, I was able to make my way home with hardly anyone getting in my way. It was amazing. And day after day, I practiced the same thing, and since then, I've had hardly any issues. This is something I should have done a long time ago, and something I already did know about, but for some reason, just one of those things I got sucked into. And we all get sucked into these things, these mental negative attachments to things. It's just part of life, but it's also part of life to recognize them for what they are. A reminder that that isn't you. When you dwell on the things that piss you off, what you're technically doing is identifying with them. They are in your thoughts, maybe even consuming your thoughts, and affect the actions you take and therefore your behavior, which is essentially your identity. Don't give these things a time of day. It isn't worth your energy. So going back to my story about the phone zombies. What I was experiencing for the longest time was a pathway with lots of resistance. Resistance was not actually the phone zombies themselves, but my thoughts about them. It was my negative thoughts that was creating a feedback loop with the universe where I kept receiving more of the same. This is what happens with anything you focus on, whether it's something you enjoy or something that pisses you off. The more time and energy you focus on a particular experience, the more similar experiences you get. And so when I realized that I just needed to focus on the gaps between the people, it was here where I wanted to go, the pathway back home. The gap allowed me to focus on home rather than the twats on their phones. My focus and therefore my time and energy was spent on the thing that I actually wanted in the first place, getting home, and that's what I got. Now, for those who know me personally, I know I need to probably apply this in many other places in my life, but hey, I'm not perfect, and I think everyone does this at one point or another. We all get caught up in the moment. And sometimes the moment unnecessarily stretches over a large period of time, but the most important thing is if we can eventually realize what we're doing, take a step back, reevaluate, and take action rather than reaction. And that's all you really need to do. If you could do that, then like I said, you're set for success. The problem is when you realize that there is a problem, but continue blaming the things that piss you off rather than actually your thoughts about them. You will continue to experience more of the same thing for as long as it takes you to change how you identify with the situation. Just like I said in my last video about self-isolation and following the rules, sometimes the easiest and most efficient way to solve the problem is just to go with the flow and bypass the resistance. The more you resist when you don't have control, the more you prolong the situation from resolving itself. It's just the way things are. Anyways, that is probably all I'll talk about today regarding this subject. I may come back and elaborate more on this, but for now, I think I will leave you with that. So again, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you again soon.